The Shift is brought to you by SE Healthcare. Welcome to The Shift. I'm Dr. Andrea Coyle. Welcome back to the next episode of the Shift podcast. I am overly excited to introduce my guest today, Tiffany Mitchell. Here's a fun story. Tiffany and I met in 2022 in Dallas, Texas. I was speaking at a conference, and she and I just had this really great connection, and we've stayed in touch over the years. And I am just thrilled to pieces that she agreed to be on the shift. And we're just going to go back and forth today and talk about all the shifts in Tiffany's career, and it's going to be super exciting. So, Tiffany, will you please introduce yourself to the shifties? And then we're just going to walk through some of the shifts in your career and even your personal life if you want to riff about that.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrea, for having me on. Absolutely enjoyed meeting you. I hate that I missed you last week at the Tonal conference. But yeah, to tell you guys a little bit about myself right now, I'm a clinical director of the inpatient unit, the ED and the float pool at North Central Surgical Center here in Dallas, Texas. I want to start with my story by letting you know why I became a nurse. So back in the spring of 2005, I experienced a brainstem inflammation. Now, I am a healthy person. At that time, I was about 26. I was working a regular job. I started feeling ill, so I had kind of gone back and forth to the doctor. And one night, my vision went double, and I just ended up in the ED. And so, of course, they did the MRIs and all the things, and was like, "Hey, this is what's going on." The neurologist explained it kind of like an onset to MS, but they can't diagnose it as MS unless you have more than one episode. So, of course, so many feelings, so many emotions going through my mind, and I stayed in the hospital about 12 days. And towards the end of that hospitalization, I literally bargained with God. I was like, just tell me what I have to do to get through this. I will do whatever you say. And literally, I heard a voice. It said, go to nursing school. So I went to nursing school, Charity School of Nursing in New Orleans. I graduated in December 2009. I started my career at Ochsner Health System in New Orleans on a med surg unit. I worked there for about a year. And then I transferred to Seattle at Virginia Mason Medical Center. My grandmother had been a nurse there for a long, long time. My dad's side of the family lives in Seattle. And I kind of just wanted to see what nursing was like in that part of the country. So I worked at Virginia Mason about a year and a half, and really it was there where I started my informal leadership. So I just want to give kudos to these two nurses. If anybody knows them, please let them know. Alex Zaremba and Sonia Wright, they were my assistant nurse managers on that unit, and they were something in me. So they allowed me to precept in charge young in my nursing career. So Seattle, doesn't get sunny all the time. So I wanted to come back to the South. I didn't want to go back to New Orleans, but I had some friends here in Dallas, and they were like, "You should come." So I came. I visited for a little bit. I was like, "I'll do it." So I applied for my Texas license. So I moved here to Dallas in September 2012, and I started my career in this area with health resources on a surgical tele unit. I worked underneath a manager who is now a CNO that kind of groomed me into formal leadership. She gave me my first nursing supervisor role in the summer of 2014. And I transitioned through a couple of places. First of all, because I was working night shift. And as I heard you mention in an episode, it's just not good on your body. Sometimes you just got to switch it
Mhm.
up.
Yep.
So I moved into a day shift outpatient supervisor role for a little bit and then transitioned to the manager on that same unit. About 2 years later, this is still within THR, I transitioned to a day surgery PACU and pre-assessment manager role, and that was probably the role that grew me the most as a leader. It's where I learned how to influence people to get things done without exhausting myself. But it's also when I realized you have to be able to care for the people who are under your care so they can care for the people that come to the hospital. So when COVID came down, I was in that outpatient cardiology space, so I wasn't as directly affected, me and my staff, because a lot of things were elective. But I realized at the end of 2023 that I had not had a break in a while. I went straight from my BSN in 2017, my MSN in 2022. I got an MHA, I'm sorry, my MSN in 2020. I got an MHA in 2022, and then I started my doctorate, which I should be finished at the end of this year. Lord says the same. I had a couple of surgeries during that period, and really, I just never really took a break for myself. I did the AONL Nurse Manager Fellowship, which I loved, and I had a lot of support, but I still realized that I was very tired and I needed a break. So in December 2023, I resigned from that nurse manager position. I took about 7.5 months off from being leader, and I actually swore to myself during that time I was not going to go back to leadership because it was kind of exhausting. I mean, you deal with things. I don't think that you can really explain to people that they actually get unless you're a leader. And so I decided to I started interviewing to go back into the workforce. And I remember during one of the interviews, the actual nurse, she broke down in tears because she talked about how they had inconsistent leadership and nobody was there to advocate for them. And so that really stuck with me. And I was like, I can't leave leadership. Like, people really need us. People really look to us to help them and carry them through their role. And I don't want to be the one that said I didn't try, that I just copped out. And the thing that gets me, and people always tell this to me, I am very good at being a leader. So even though I'm tired, even though there's probably something easier I could do, sit at home, do something virtual, or do something non-patient facing, I am good at being a leader. And so I decided just to come back into leadership, and I am where I am now. And one of the things over this past year since I've come back is realizing a lot of nurses, especially that come new into the profession, they don't really have that cue of professionalism and what to do. And I think about all of the things that I do now, just for me and my career. If someone had told me to do these things, how much further would I be? How much easier would my nursing job be? And so I've kind of transitioned into building this informal mentoring group. I call it Grow RN, and it's called Getting Ready for the Other World. And I wanted to reach out to nursing students and just kind of give them some tidbits about what it is to be the nurse who leaves a mark and not a scar. And so that is
Ooh.
where I am right now.
So, Tiffany, I'm going to unpack some of the things that you said. First of all, I started off my career as a med-surg nurse. Med-surg nursing is not glamorous or sexy. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very difficult. I want to say kudos to you for shouting out to the people that believed in you and recognized your potential. That's part of why I started the shift, is because in healthcare, while it is female dominated, it's really important, I believe, that we're able to look at a peer and recognize the greatness they bring to the world. And it's part of a job as a leader to identify those people and elevate them. And that's why,
Absolutely.
kind of like you, when you started your Grow RN, I do my Rise, Reignite, Inspire, Support, Empower. I just did the presentation in the great state of Texas last week. And those are big shifts. The other thing I heard you say, Tiffany, and you didn't say it, but I'm reading between the lines, is at a couple different points or shifts in your career, you were suffering. You said the word exhaustion, which is one of the three cardinal symptoms of burnout. You've been burned out in your career. And I am very vulnerable in saying I have been burned out. And I'm kind of on a new, I don't want to call it a tangent, but I'm on a mission, Tiffany, to explain to leaders that there is a difference between burnout and well-being. They are not the same, and we continue to put them in the same bucket. And to me, burnout is the early indicator,
Mm-hmm.
well-being is the lagging indicator, and they are very different. And I think in healthcare, specifically nursing, but in healthcare professionals in general, to not fully appreciate the difference, we're selling ourselves short. Um, so,
Absolutely.
you've lived this life, and whenever we have the therapy dogs, which I love, or do a yoga class at 7 a.m., if you're exhausted, if you are feeling lack of self-efficacy, you're not going to want to enjoy the yoga class. In my burnout, I didn't want to do anything. And honestly, I spent a lot of my time, and I'm very honest and transparent in saying it, I spent a lot of my time with unhealthy behavior, meaning I complained all the time. I was that chronic, cynical, sarcastic person. And that's one of the other symptoms of burnout. So, with that, I would love for you to tell us more about Grow because I heard that you saw an opportunity and you made a positive shift, which I love, and it's going to impact nursing students. So, tell us about the program. How do people get involved? Have you implemented it somewhere? I'd love to learn more, and so would the Shifties.
Yes, absolutely. So I will tell you this, even though I'm a leader and I influence, I am very much an introvert. So I am still learning this world of social media and getting on, doing all of the things. But I have a website. It is tiffanycmitchell.com, and there is a link to Grow RN on it. And right now I'm kind of doing email newsletter blog just to kind of send out the information that I want people to have. But what I envision is building community of RN students so they have support as they go through their journey. I think sometimes in nursing, we say we want to be together, but we silo each other so much. So it's like you have the community college nurses against the BSN school nurses. Like there's just so many things. And it's like we, at the end of the day, we all have the same practice. We're all going to experience the same things. And like I said, I kind of feel like so I have these four foundational things that I started the program off with, started the newsletter with, because I feel like no matter where you are in your career, no matter what setting you work in, no matter what type of education you have, and even if you're a leader, there are things that you should know and aspire to help you grow in your career. And so I'll actually save them for later. They'll be my takeaways. So we'll talk about that.
Oh, I love it.
But again, so I'm looking right now just to get some people involved and kind of reach out to me and start a community. People can reach me on my Instagram page. It's tmitch 504RN. But like I said, my website, it's tiffanycmitchell.com, and there's a link for Grow RN on that page.
And Tiffany, you said something. That's another reason for the shift. When I bring guests on the shift that are influential in our nurse leader space, such as yourself, I am I'm really thrilled that I have the medium on this podcast to highlight the great work that you're doing and all the other guests are doing. And you said build a community of nursing students. I'm also trying to build a community of shifties. And so I think as leaders, that's what we want. We want to build this sense of community. And I love what you said. I don't love it because it's not really something I'm proud of in nursing, but we do kind of label the community college nurses and the BSN nurses and the DNPs versus the
Mhm.
PhDs. And they so intersect, but and
Absolutely.
they really do. And I ended up getting my DNP. And are you getting your DNP or PhD?
I'm getting my DNP. Yes.
And I find that, the PhD folks, they generate new knowledge, which is fabulous. And we
Fabulous.
take that new knowledge as DNPs and we implement it. So we're working together, we're collaborating.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to do to elevate the profession of nursing. We don't need to say, oh, she just has a DNP and I have the PhD. It all of it elevates our profession. And I'm really proud of that. So, again, this whole podcast, I say this all the time. The KPIs, the podcast, keep people involved, keep them inspired, and keep them interested. And that's what we're doing. Um, so tell me one of the biggest shifts in your career.
Um, I would say taking that time off was a big shift. As you mentioned, it never crossed my mind that I was experiencing burnout. It was when I was on the phone with a colleague that I met through AONL. We were talking, and she was like, "Are you burnt out?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And we just had that conversation. I was like, "Well, I guess yes, I am." And she kind of mentored me through that space a little bit because number one, see, I quit my job without having another job. Okay. It was like really intentional. Let me take my time. Let me get back to the things that I value for myself. And it gave me time to really check into myself mentally and emotionally, go back to that spiritual space that I felt like I had been missing. It allowed me to realize how I wanted to serve people better going forward in my career. And so I really appreciated that time. I know that everybody can't. It was a real huge faith move, but I'm here and it worked. And I feel very ecstatic to be able to continue to serve nursing and serve my employees in a capacity that is positive and gives them a sense of well-being.
That's so well said. And I always say this, and I said this Friday in Dallas. Every morning I wake up and whatever I do throughout my day, and it doesn't have to be from a professional perspective, it could be in my personal life, it is on purpose with purpose. And I thank my Almighty that I am crystal clear on my assignment. And I know you've heard me say that. And when you say the same thing, and your God came to you and said, get into nursing, you can serve people and help people. I think it's powerful. And I feel like in the absence of knowing what your purpose is, you kind of aimlessly walk around. It's really important as a leader to know what your
Mm,
purpose is. And when you
hmm
find your purpose, I'm telling you, every morning I wake up, I cannot wait for my 2 feet to hit the ground so I can get back to my assignment and my purpose. And I really try in my Rise workshop to help people methodically think through over 30 days what their purpose is. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and it feels like you've already found your purpose.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit it was thrust upon me, but I had to choose it. And so just going back to when I first moved here and I had the nurse leader, her name is Chongwen, by the way, that groomed me. You have a choice when you go to your MSN. You have to pick a track. And I'm like, oh, do I want to be a APRN or do I want to be a leader? And so I had a real candid conversation with her about being a leader. Like, is it worth it? Because I could see from looking at her that it's work. It's not the simple, oh, you come do your job, you clock out. And she was like, if you do it well, then it's absolutely worth it. And so I decided in my mind that, as a clinician, I can impact patients one by one, but if I'm a good leader, I can exponentially impact patient care from the people that I touch who are underneath my leadership. And that is why I decided to make that choice to become a nurse leader.
And I always say, I want to be the leader that takes care of the people taking care of the people.
Absolutely.
And you
Absolutely.
said that a little differently, but I say that all the time. And the other thing I want to say, Tiffany, is I love how you are so quick to manage up and shout out to the people that have been integral in your career and your shifts in your career. And a big shout out to the AONL, who does great things for nurse leaders. Deb Zimmerman, Dr. Deb Zimmerman, she was the first
Mhm.
I interviewed on the Shift podcast. We're going to
Oh,
bring her
wow.
back. Yeah, she's amazing.
Okay.
All of the AONL leaders are incredible. And I'm going to, the podcast has really, and speaking with different leaders, has influenced me to re-engage with AONL. And I'm going to be at the conference in
In Boston
in Boston. Are you
at
going?
the end of the month. Yes,
Okay,
I'm
we'll
excited.
connect up there. We'll
It's
connect.
always a good time. Yeah, and it's good that you say that. I mean, there are so many people, like when I think about being a leader, of course you want to say there are these key people, and I quietly watch people, and I will say, like, one of the things that moved me. I was working at Texas Health Dallas when we had the Ebola patient, and at that time, Dr. Cole Edmondson was our chief nursing officer. And let me tell you something. I love Cole. When you're around Cole, you know Cole cares about people. It's yes, we want to have the outcomes. Yes, we want to give great care, but Cole always cared about the people that worked for him. And so seeing that and being just a part of that quote unquote lineage and legacy is just something that I want to carry on going forward in my career. So,
Okay, so I'm just writing this down because Cole spoke in Dallas the
hmm
day before me, and I flew in and I missed him. But I'm going to email him, tell him that you managed him up, and I want him to be on the podcast.
there
See,
you
that's how
go.
this community grows.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
love it. So, Tiffany, will you again, I'm gonna ask you to share 3 golden nuggets that you want the shifties to take away. But before you do that, I want you to shout out, brag on yourself about grow. So how can people learn more? How can the shifties learn more?
Tifties can learn more. So go to tiffanycmitchell.com/grow RN. You can email me at tiffany's.rn@gmail.com. Um, Again, though that website has all my social media, and I will be transparent with everybody and let you know it's in process. But again, I feel like it's starting to give people things to think about because it might not something you can put in works right away. Because again, I'm thinking about things. What are the foundations that we need for our career? I know another thing that I see a lot as a leader. A lot of nurses don't know about professional organizations and policy and how to be active on the advocacy side way until they're deep in their career. And it's like, think about what if we taught these things to people while they were in nursing school and really kind of push that agenda. So by the time they get their first job, like they're rearing and ready to go. I kind of feel like we do the profession a disservice by not weaving that into education more. But teachers are doing the best they can as well. You know, we're all just doing the best they can. So, like I said, I just kind of want to be that extra advocate. I want to build something, especially if people are in the DFW area. Please send them my way. Like, I would love to start something forward facing on the weekend where we could meet up. Well, again, people could talk about their frustrations and they don't get to the end of a program and talking about being depressed or failing out of school. It's like we all kind of support. And I just want us to be able to support each other through our journeys.
And Shifties, if you also miss Tiffany's contact information, we're going to put something on LinkedIn. So we just really want to spread the word. And then Tiffany, three things that you really think the Shifties need to know.
Can I give you four?
You can definitely
maybe
give
three
me
and
four.
a half.
Yes, do it.
So these are the four things that I started Grow RN with because again, I feel like no matter what role you play, what setting you work in, or what education you have, that is pivotal in your career. And though they may change throughout your career, I still feel like you need to identify them. So the first we've already talked about is know your why. Like you need to know your purpose for becoming a nurse. And I pray that it's more than just you want to make money because it is a hard career for that to be your only reason. So please dig down deep and have that, tattooed somewhere in your soul because there's going to be times when you need to dig in and say, hey, this is going to keep me going. The second thing is build a tribe. I will say, I wish I had done this as a nursing student. I've done it now as a leader, and I kind of feel like it has saved me so many times. People like you, just other leaders, locally and nationally, just to bounce things off of. So I think nursing students need to learn, especially if you were an introvert like me. Yeah, you can go to class and you don't have to do the study groups, but it will make you so much more productive and it will open doors for you if you just build a network of people to support you through your journey. The third thing is be aware of your presence. I think sometimes if you have that mindset, you're just a nurse, you don't realize the energy and the spirit that you bring into a place. So you always need to be aware when you're talking with colleagues, when you're talking with physicians, and definitely with your patients, what your presence feels like. And the number 4, which is kind of like a 3.5, understand that your presence gives to influence. So there are so many people. People will say, I became a nurse because I had this great nurse take care of me. You never know whose life you're going to impact go in that room. And so we need to be mindful all the time of how we're presenting ourselves and how it influences the people in our sphere. So
those are incredible tips to take away. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
And I really want you to come back because at some point we're going to talk about how Grow RN has actually
growing.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I love it. And maybe at some point you and I can connect and I can do a rise and you can do a grow and rise, grow. We'll figure it all out. That'll be really fun. And I always say at the end, Shifties, remember, your shift makes a difference. Keep shifting. Enjoying the shift? Help us reach more nurse leaders by rating and reviewing us on your podcast app. It takes just a minute, but makes a big impact. Search for The Shift, tap those stars, and share what you love. Your feedback shapes our future episodes and helps others discover us. Remember, rate, review, and amplify The Shift today.